Whether you're new to pool and practicing the basics, or a more experienced player performing drills to improve your shot making and positional play, the Drill Partner is perfect for you.
Putting in the overtime, Panozzo.
This is what we live for. This is what we
Well,
live for.
I didn't know if we were ever going to make it here. If I'm being honest with you, I'm I'm gonna start off. I'm gonna start off the show already on tilt, Mike. And I just wanna get it off. I just want to get it off my chest before we even get rolling. Okay. So, because we got a lot of stuff to dive into. We got a lot of stuff to dive into. Well, it's not you. I mean, usually it's you, but this time, Mike, it's the day before the biggest event of the year, and hours before kickoff, and that's when the draw happens. Tell me this. In what sport does that happen, Mike? You know, like I
Well,
imagine
listen,
not knowing what teams are going to be in the NFL playoffs until and how they're going to go and face each other until the night before. You wouldn't get any game odds. You wouldn't get any outright win odds. And we're already like in the Stone Ages in terms of pool, Mike. And the day before the tournament comes out is whenever we get the draw. I for the life of me, I feel like we just took 10 steps back here.
well, listen. The NFL analogy is not good. Well, in regards to sports betting, right?
Which is massive, Mike.
Well, the thing. I mean, are they doing, match odds here for this event? Are they doing? And how much in advance do you really need that? I mean, you got all the matches today. Are you gonna? You would have made your bets 3 days ago and changed your mind by today.
Well, I mean, I might have laid some off, by today. I might have changed my mind. No, but the match odds is big.
Well, listen, here's the thing. I get it. In terms of, we want the stuff as early as we can get it. We want to talk about it. We want to see what the odds are, the bets are. Really make a whole hell of a lot of difference between now and tomorrow that we're going to miss anything, right? Did it cost us anything? Did it possibly cost some betting options? Yeah, possibly, but I don't even think that. But it's we chomp at the bit for this stuff, so it's aggravating when we don't get it early. So I get that.
Well, eventually we got it though, but I just wanted to get that off my chest because I've had that one. I've had that one in the chamber for days now. So
you've been stewing, man.
I have been. Listen, the betting side of it is so big in terms of sports. I feel like that's part of the popularity of so many like modern day sports. And I was planning on doing one of our fantasy draft things. And we didn't even get a players list till the other day. And it's like, it's so hard to coordinate. And all these things are like, they're missing in pool, and I'm not saying it would go and change pool around, but I bet you it would help. If you can get a little bit of that degenerate in there.
Moves it in the right direction. Speaking of the odds, I did see you posted. Where were those odds from?
Bet365. I found them yesterday afternoon. Whenever
how did they match up with what you came up with a couple weeks ago?
I don't even remember, but I'm already laying some of that talk off myself, Mike. I already got a new winner in my head, so but whenever I did that for the APA show, which was a lot of fun, by the way, like I mentioned to you, whenever we were doing it, I was going in terms of how guys are playing currently versus if I was going in the mindset of trying to fish for bets, it'd be a whole different scenario,
Right. This one they're trying to fish for bets.
Oh, for sure. Yeah. I mean, like, listen, the one that y'all called me out on at the end of the show, I'm just like, and then the fact that Koping Chung's not even listed on there.
Let's see.
Go and
so where is he? He's at plus 2,000.
Who's that?
He's the same odds as Jason.
Oh yeah, sure. Yeah. He's the same odds as who, Mike?
And another shock. He got a pretty good draw.
Well, at least I'll give them credit that I think they did the draw live somewhere because I saw it on their Instagram, but I don't know where it was on there. So that part I like. But
I'm not I'm not suggesting they did anything.
No. But I think that part of it is an opportunity for sure. Like in terms of, I mean, look at the draft. The NFL draft by itself will get tons of views. You know what I mean? And that's just people picking, unknowns towards next year. But anyway, we got a lot of stuff to get into, Mike, including we'll talk about the draw here in a little bit. I'll share the screen and we can take a look at some juicy matchups. I know you took a look at it as well. We got some hot takes that we're going to be going over as well, like kind of putting our foot in our mouth, which we're good at doing. But first thing, or Jenny Ann, actually, we'll start off with Jenny Ann's comment right away, and that was the one that jumped out at me on the draw, Mike. The Federer versus Sam Henderson. I mean, that's pretty brutal. Well, if you're Team Rhino.
I messaged Sam and I told him, listen, Federer's notorious for dropping his first match in Saudi Arabia.
You're giving him tips already, ain't you, Mike? Huh?
Just giving him hope. No, I mean, listen, he's a young player. No, he knows no matter who he was going to play in the first round, he's going to have to come with it. He's in that situation now where he's just trying to win matches at events like this. So, but by the same token, you see a kid and his mom make all that trip over there and go to a round and get so psyched and they're so proud to be over there playing this thing. And then you look at the draw and you can tell yourself, I got to play these guys sooner or later. I may as well, you can talk yourself in all that, but you can't tell me that some air didn't go out of that balloon. You can't tell me.
100%. But like you mentioned, not the hottest of starters, and and if you're Sam, you're coming off a little bit of momentum, back-to-back finals appearance in Quincy. Now I know the field isn't nowhere near what a world championship would be, but like you got to pull at positives any chance you can. If you're the kid, and look, if you realistically, like the truth of the matter is, he's a young man already, and so if you want to see where you are in the totem pole, there's no better test than going up against the number one player and the current defending champion.
Yeah,
and so
look at it this way, he's got Federer in the first round. He would rather play Federer there than at the single elimination round of 64 break.
Right? No, Mike, because you make more money on the single elimination round. So no, that's not accurate at all.
He's going home after that. Now he can lose.
You're just a kid with a body blow.
He can lose and still win 3 matches and get to the 64.
Look, I'm just looking at the draw, Mike, and I'll kind of bring it up here just momentarily before we go over the takes here. But like going over the draw, I know that obviously I know Frank really well. Really nice guy, one of my favorite players on the tour, who's right underneath him, who's playing in that next round. But I don't have any clue who the Filipino is. And so if Sam were to somehow lose that first round against Federer, which he would be an underdog, I don't think it's going to get any easier, Mike, because like I said, Frank's a pretty decent player, and I have a hard time betting against Filipinos in general. You know what I mean? So I may not know who Marlon Cañeda is.
That's what I'm talking about with Sam. There's no match in here he's going to go up against where you'd be like, wow, he's going to roll this guy. So he knows that, and he's prepared for that. And if he beats Federer and he plays the winner of that match, it's going to be tough. If he loses to Federer and plays the loser of that match, it's going to be tough. I mean, he knows that flying out there, that he's not going to have any matches where he's a heavy favorite. Just not going to happen.
But there's another American he'd rather play in there. I'll give you Hunter Lombardo for 500, Alex. Okay, just right off the bat. Okay, so just in terms of Americans, but anyhow, lots of stuff to talk about, Mike, and like I said, we got some predictions that we're going to be going over as well. You want to lead us off in that category, Mike?
What, in the hot takes?
Yeah. Which that's a little cheesy of a line. I got to come with a better phrase for that. By the way, that's like 500 Fargo, title there.
Don't you have the list? Yeah,
I got the list. I'm saying you got your list as well. So let's you lead it. Actually, I'll lead off with this one because this is the one that we both agreed upon, and it's kind of obvious. We didn't see him during the press conference, although I don't think anybody saw him in the press conference, Mike. And that's Federer being a heavy favorite, which is kind of a shock for a number of reasons.
Did you expect him? Did you expect him to be at the press conference?
Who, Federer? Well, what's the situation? Yeah. This is like the awkward, like ex who just happens to show up at like all the family get-togethers. You know what I mean? Where it's just like, okay, you know that nobody gets along. We're not really on speaking terms, but you're still friends with that one uncle. You know what I mean? And y'all get along pretty well. So it's just like, are we vibing here? Or are we not? Because if you are vibing, hey, embrace it. You know everybody wants to hear from the guy, and you know he's a top 3 favorite in this tournament at a minimum. He's actually a top favorite in terms of betting odds from the books as well, along with Federer. So it's just I don't like this middle of the ground where nobody wants to really say anything, and you're awkwardly leaving them out.
And maybe it's still gonna take a while. Who knows? But you know, he's I listen as a heavy favorite on this.
Heavy's a big word, Mike.
Well, it is, but here, look at the top 3 betting favorites. Okay. Him, Federer, and Shane. Okay. I think out of those 3, he's on a last longer because one, Federer won it last year. Federer just finished in the finals of Dubai. I never like guys who roll in there just having won a tournament. And I certainly don't like, Federer's chances of winning 2 in a row. Could he do it? Of course, he could roll everybody and win it. But if you're playing the odds, and he talked about this when we talked to him for our show. He said, "I'm a math guy," and I look at this, and it's not, it's not a thing that I'm really excited about because I know what the odds are. But I'm going to go out there and play every match and not think about the odds and not think about winning it twice. I'm going to think about winning the next match. What you have to do. That's great. So I'm not crazy about his chances. Shane, 41. Can you do it? Yeah. Tough road, tough field. Josh, I think it's interesting that we've had these tournaments recently, and Josh has been completely radio silent. He wasn't with Pia at her, event, Predator event.
Right.
He was, I'm guessing that he was buried in a bunker with a table, and he's been playing like a maniac. And he's playing with a chip on his shoulder.
Which is scary. That's scary, Mike. Really, really scary.
That's a dangerous Josh. He's going to take advantage of feeling like he's got no friends in that room. And
I don't think he realistically, does to a certain extent outside of the Germans, and I don't know what his relationship is, but we both talked to many a player on and off the record over the last year, and learned, what are some of those things in that closet that we thought, okay, maybe they get along better than what they really do, when in reality that just wasn't the case. And look, you hit a lot of good points, Mike, and the repeat factor is huge, especially from just a sports aspect, and Poole being gaffy in the roll and the break and all these things, and I get it. Now, we saw Federer drop his first match last year, and ended up going through the scenic route in order to get there. I don't think he's gonna necessarily drop his first match in this year. No disrespect to Sam, but yeah, look, I'm with you in terms of Josh. Him being in the lab, which is probably the case, is really scary, and it should be scary for everybody, because unlike these other guys, he is not he doesn't have a lot of extracurriculars. Josh is a gym rat. Josh is very much that student of the game, and when it comes to playing for things that motivate him, like money does, and like proving people wrong and pissing people off and getting back at those who probably got in his checkbook, so to speak, I think he's got a lot of factors that play into his favor. His draw opening up, I think, is a little on the trappy side, if I'm being honest with you. But either way, whenever you get into single elimination, there's certain guys that just have the it factor, and there's not very many of them, Mike. And Josh is one of them. And Josh is the one that I don't feel like, compared to these other guys, like I don't feel like he's seeing any ghosts right now. I think he's still doing the one that's stalking in terms of that locker room. I think he's a guy who eats, breathes, and sleeps Poole, and just running out and give him 2 on the wire just from a name standpoint against anybody in the room. Probably, with the exception of like a Federer, obviously. But
most guys,
yeah. On your note of the last longer, though, I'm with you. I would certainly take him over Shane and Federer. and that lasts longer. I just feel like it's so obvious to say, oh well, I'm gonna go and pick filler, but in terms of those three guys, that's who I would go with as well, Mike. I'd be shocked if he's not there at a minimum in the final 8 of this tournament, and more than likely going to be there towards the, at least like in the second half of like the quarterfinals, you know. So
he's short of anything in the final 8. That's a shock. It will be. That will be a shocker.
Yeah, for sure.
I mean, look, I mean, it depends on depends on who he runs into when it switches. Because if you get one of those top players lose a match into qualifying, and all of a sudden they come in from the other side when the redraw goes, you can get a really testy matchup in the single.
And there's gonna be those guys, Mike. Just looking at the draw, like I'm seeing a lot of guys, a lot of dangerous players that are gonna go through one loss side.
A lot of dangerous matches in there already.
Yeah, and then you have like the unknown, and I want to just kind of piggyback on that, going towards your second take here, if I can go and find it here on my list. But I think it was the fact that you'll have a Saudi player into the final 16, Mike.
Which not necessarily a Saudi player, but a Middle Eastern player.
Which I didn't even write that down on here. I'm dog.
They're playing with house money. No one expects them to, there's a couple of good players in there who could sneak in there. So, you look for something like a Mohammed Sufi type of, run.
That's exactly what I was going to say. Yeah.
Catches fire and gets in there. I would love to see it. I think it would be good for the event. I think it would be good for Poland and the Middle East. It could be kind of fun.
I think like you're right, and someone is going to have a Cinderella run in this tournament. It just happens every single one that we go and watch. I feel like that gap is closed in terms of like the breaks, and just the difference in terms of talent. And because everyone's been so 9-ball focused primarily, that it has closed that up a little bit more over the last couple of years. Plus, you just have like the grinders, even the unknown Filipinos and the unknown Middle Eastern players, like you mentioned. There's these young prime European kids as well who they could shock you. They could really shock you, and all it takes is a little bit of a good run. You get a decent win under your belt, and boom, that can go and just catapult you into a Cinderella.
Federer's opening round loss last year wasn't to any household name.
I don't even remember who that guy was, Mike. Now that I know it was a Middle Eastern guy, but I don't remember who it was.
Yeah, I can't remember the name now. But yeah, Middle Eastern player. So and get to 16, which is winning 2 matches in single elimination, which would be a huge thing. But it's something I'd like to see happen. It's something that could be fun, could be cool.
I'm going next on here, Mike, in terms of takes, and I'm going with the Americans. Except this time, I'm going no Americans in the final 16. You on the other hand have one American through to the final 16. Are you pulling like that Federer card as an American in the final 16? Is that the road you're going here?
Yeah, I'm playing the Federer Shane parlay. But I don't see anybody else hitting 16.
Look, I think that there's just so much going on out there, and you're going to have a lot of guys where the bullseye's on your back, and both those guys come to mind in terms of wanting to be like that scout that guys are going to want to go and put on their belt, Mike. Like I mentioned, I think that and you're going to have to catch him in these dangerous spots. You're going to have to catch him early on in a match. You're going to have to catch him early on in the tournament, because the problem is, especially with those two guys in a Shane and a Federer, most of their matches are going to be on TV table. Majority of them are going to be on TV table, which means they're going to have more experience than anyone else out there, relatively speaking, and especially like that. And if by chance that one of those two guys gets into like deep into singles, right, and they play a guy like Filler, I'd be interested to see how many TV table matches a guy like Filler has up until that point, because then I feel like the momentum will certainly be on the side of a Federer type player, just from that aspect alone, and just given how everything plays that much more different, but I just feel like Well, they're already keeping like I don't. It's just awkward, like I mentioned to start the show, and so and we saw that whenever they were doing like what was it, Mike, the UK Open or whatever, where they just kept them off until single, So from that side of it, like it depends how it's going to go, obviously. But I'm going no Americans through the final 16. I think that there's plenty of young guns who can go and catch these guys early and often, and I just don't feel like they have that like indestructible factor that we've seen over the last couple of years, Mike. If I'm being honest with you, so. But in terms of like coming off of a deep run and following that up, that's the other side of it as well, especially in terms of a Federer, coming off of a finals appearance in Dubai, how is that going to weigh into him? Plus, like he's very much doing like the song and dance, right? Like he's very social media active and all that stuff is going to be taxing to a certain extent compared to other players who are just like play a match, go rest, go gym, go, eat proper, whatever, instead of having to go and do the whole circus charade, if that makes sense. So,
yeah. No, it's, but we've kind of been like poking that part of Federer for a year or so, not a year now. And he tends to, when it's business time, he tends to get down to business.
Frank says, I'll take Kachi in a last longer versus filler for a steak dinner. Well, you got me. You got action on that one, Frank, and I'm not even looking at the board there, but I'll certainly take.
Yeah, I don't know which Mike he's talking about. But we should both take it.
Snap call.
If we lose, we split the bill.
We're stealing, Mike. Right? We're already getting half on our money. I'm in. Let's go, Frank. You got action, buddy. This is another guy who I'm a little curious about as well, Mike. And he's actually the furthest in terms of odds, or one of the furthest players in terms of odds on Bet365, Amir Ali. But if you look at Fargo rate, right, which is like in modern day handicapping, this is like the Bible. You know what I mean? And this is gospel. And so he's actually ranked number 2 in terms of Fargo rate. Now I don't know what his match statistics are like, or as far as who he's played and what's his robustness like. But could Amir Ali like realistically do anything in this tournament, Mike?
Well, it's really going to be our first chance to seeing those, those Fargo rates, and we want to hear his story and see him on the big stage and all that kind of stuff. So, let's. I hope they throw him on a TV table. I mean, it's a good story. Let's see him get out there and beat. See if he beats somebody good. I mean, he starts out against Grillo from Portugal.
Joao's a dangerous player, Mike. He's a trap player kind of guy.
He's a very dangerous player. And then if he winner of Niels and Roland, so we're going to find out pretty quickly,
where you're
what kind of speed you're at in this event.
Yeah, no, 100%. You're accurate there. And I mean, look, that Middle Eastern factor will play into a role whether or not he'll get TV table time. And certainly, like if you're asking me, hey, pick, go and rank guys with upside that are Middle Eastern, it wouldn't be very long before I pick him out. Now, I couldn't pick him out in a lineup, Mike. I couldn't tell you like that's Amir. You know what I mean? I couldn't point him out. But just from an odd standpoint alone, I would take a swing. I hope for the sake of the tournament that we get one of these guys, like you mentioned, going deep into the tournament, because it'll really help just make this tournament thrive in the region, and then who knows what it could go and do thereafter, Mike. Jenny Ann says you can't roll out the Coe brothers. I don't think anyone's counting those boys out by any means, that's for sure, and they're going to be one of the favorites in this tournament as well. Mike, what else you got in terms of takes for this tournament, buddy?
I like 5 Filipinos in the final 16.
What are we starting off with the Pinoys?
17. 17.
So you're okay, and you're saying 5 in the final 16. That's a strong nump, Mike. It's a really big number.
We had 3 or 4 last year. So the bad things is you're starting out with Marvin. Is it Marvin Assis playing Ferrer right away? One of the they ended up with a pretty tough draw out of the AJ Manis and Alexis.
AJ,
first round.
Yeah.
So that's a tough first round draw. and then you've got a couple of, instances where two of them will meet in the second round. But you're still talking about the early parts of double elimination. They can still get through the final 64. So, we'll see what happens. They're just playing so strong right now. You can't say here's the favorite. There's 3 or 4 of them who won pretty significant events in the past month. 4, right? So, it's they're starting to get out there and stick their toe in the international waters, and I'm glad to see it. I'm glad to see that they're getting the support and the funding that they need to get out there and take these big stage swings. Because if they do and they start finding success, and all of a sudden this group of 16 or 15, whatever, dozen start showing up everywhere, it's going to be fun to watch.
You better be careful what you ask for in terms of making this sport global, because there could be just an outbreak of superstar Filipino players. And that's great for that area. But like if you're Europeans, it's like, that can make you a little uncomfortable too, Mike. Go ahead.
Well, I think part of it is, we talked about this before. One of the real upsides of this increase in regional events, particularly in Asia, pretty significant, decent money, well run. It's giving these guys more of that opportunity to get out there and play more. So to get the international comp out, Manila to New Jersey prices, they get some win prize money, right? They get the experience. They get all that. Now, you want to see the Filipinos parlay that into, let's get our own private jet and stack 20 of us in there and just start going around the world
and just heisting it region by region, right?
Heisting it. So, I mean, that would be those are the storylines you want to see. I mean, as a writer, this is the stuff I want to see. I want to see the Filipinos link arms, throw their flags over their shoulder, and go take on the world.
Look, I'm 100% with you with everything that you're saying there. I think it's a great story, and especially leading into the second half of the year. And really, for all intents and purposes, it's like the first half of the year. It's the first half of the last half, because we're about to go into a real dangerous stretch in terms of making moves. But like all eyes are on this prize. And listen, we all know the household names. We know Carlo. We obviously know Chua. We know, the social media kid in AJ that they've been hyping up. And I'm sure they would love to see that kid make a run. But then you also got like these guys who are just known to be monsters. Look at that round with Roland and Niels. You know what I mean? Like, I know Niels is running a little bit of a hot hand lately, but Roland's a grinder, man, and Roland can wear you down, and he's got a lot of experience, so not to mention these guys who, like, I don't know who they are. I mean, I've heard of reputations, I've heard of names, but like they're going to go into this with playing with house money, basically, against a more known player. And I think that they'll be part of that group that's going to go and chop down these young other monster Asian players or monster European players, and then you're gonna get to know who they are by the end of this tournament, Mike. For the sake of what the rest of the year is going to look like, I'm hoping that you're right and spot on in terms of the Filipinos making a strong run. I have a Filipino winning it. Now, don't ask me which one, because I'm taking all 17 in my pick. I'm just picking. Yeah, and I know it's not really like much in terms of going out on the limb. And really, I was dead set on going this road before I even knew that they had 17 players. But my hot take, if you will, in this tournament will be, or one of them anyway, is that a Filipino is going to be crowned a world champion. I think it'll be so big for that area of the world, Mike. I think it'll do so many great things for those players and the spotlight and the growth of the sport. I think it'll start to just further pump up that region. And so I really hope, and it's not just from like a Cinderella type story, because there's some guys that just play tough, and they've been dealing with pressure and not this like entitled attitude, but like, I'm trying to feed my family type vibe here. You know what I mean? That like, you can't, either you got that or you don't. I think they're warriors, they're soldiers, and they're going to go out there and show the world what they can really do in this tournament, Mike. I don't know which one.
I hope so, and I think it would be a lot of fun. My concern with the Filipinos, and we've seen this before, is that they do play hard. They do play for their money. They do. But when it comes toward the end of a tournament and they start to feel the weight of their country on their shoulders, they've been known to get a little shaky, right? So, I'd love to see someone step up and run the whole rack. But the one who gets to that semifinal or the final, going to have a lot of weight on their shoulders.
For sure. And they're all pretty much we guys in terms of playing for their country, in terms of me, like versus being a me guy. And I admire that about them so much more. But let me ask you this, Mike, and I wanted to ask this during the press conference.
Wait a second. Are you going to tell Matt Ham, or am I going to tell Matt Ham?
Matt Ham says, I'm hoping Sky wins. Well, Mike, go ahead and break his heart, Mike, if you will. He's not in the player list, my man.
He's pretty deep.
I'll take your action though if you want to lay a little sweater on him winning the event. That's for sure. No, but and let me ask you that, Mike, because there's no Sky, no Billy, no Wolford in this tournament, Mike. What do you make of that for those guys not being out there in Saudi?
Those three guys are businessmen, right? I don't think any three of them ROI on the World Championship relative to staying at home and doing what they do at home.
So then what if it's not going to be for the World Championship, then what event internationally would there be a decent ROI, like return on your investment?
I don't see any of those three guys doing much internationally this year, period. Have they yet?
Didn't Sky go to the UK?
There's been a lot, but have any of those three played the UK and the European?
I don't think so. No, I think Sky played one of them.
I think they're making decisions on where they're going to spend their money.
Okay, so then let me ask you this, Mike, on the Matchroom side of it, in terms of the Mosconi Cup, what effect, if any, do you think that'll have on we don't know if Sky's going to be the captain. I know in a press release they mentioned Mosconi Cup captain Sky Woodward, but like there's no official announcement yet.
So that would be a big thing. I mean, if Sky's the captain, then obviously he's already on the team, and then with his wild card pick, there'd be a chance that he'd pick Billy or Shane Wolford. They could backdoor their way in, but we don't know what that's going to be yet. I've always said I like to see the guys who go out there and stick their chin out and their pocketbooks out there and keep swinging at it. I like to see them rewarded, and I'll stick with that. So we'll see what happens.
Yeah. And Sky's getting married too, so don't let that be forgotten about here during this whole thing, because that's a big life moment.
That they're doing anything wrong. They're doing what they need to do with Sky. If he's getting married, it's he's getting married. That's good for him. But it's not a good look for American Pro Pool. Agree.
Yeah. No, I'm 100% with you, and I'm just curious to see like what effect, if any, of this will have later on towards this year, Mike. On the note of Mosconi Cup, Mike, one of my hot takes for this tournament is no Mosconi Cup player is going to be crowned champion, and I made that deliberately, knowing that Filler was not a Mosconi Cup player, by the way. So,
I was going to say that's good, buddy.
Yeah. No. Yeah, you don't get a sixth guy on Team Europe because he was supposed to be on the team. I'm going just based off of the 10 guys who were there last year, Mike, and I know there's a lot of heavy favorites in there. We talked about this, SVB and Federer being among them, and the other side of it. And in reality, like for me personally, one of the two guys out of this grouping that I'm really nervous about making this pick about is going against the Spaniards, because of course Kachi as well, but we haven't seen a whole lot of like Kachi being Kachi, and I know he's always around and he can always make a run and all these things.
We didn't see much from him last year before the World Championship either. He was about 3 balls away from winning.
Yeah, well, that's you hit the nail on the head. But those Spaniards play tough. They play different. And those are the two guys, if any. Like, look, I'm not saying that I would take the Spaniards over Kachi in a last longer, but it would be close. If you gave me those three guys versus a Kachi, like it would be real close taking that action. The Spaniards just play the game really well. They break the balls really well. All of them have a world of experience. Now, Jonas is still, to me, an unproven commodity in that grouping. And obviously Delgado, because we haven't seen him outside of like a World Cup of Pool B team be on a bigger stage. But like the way that they break the balls and the way they handle pressure, the way that they play safes, Mike, like give me all those guys in terms of grinders, plus that experience factor on playing on the biggest of stages. But with all that in mind, I'm still saying no Mosconi Cup player will be crowned champion in this tournament, Mike. But I think that one might come back to bite me in the ass if I'm being honest with you. So actually, they probably all will.
Be pretty lucky.
Yeah, no kidding. All right, Mike, what do you got? What do you got next?
Let's see what I got next.
Oh, here you go. I'll bring this one up, Mike. This is interesting, and I still have a lot of questions about this. By the way, you said so they have a $10,000 break and run pot, right? And Federer asked in the press conference, like, well, what are the rules? How are you marking it? And all Emily basically said, and I'm paraphrasing here, was that it'll be on the tablet for you to keep track of, meaning like their scoring tablet, right? But like, are we talking about the most break and runs in the whole tournament or in one particular match? Like, I'm still a little confused as to how many, like, how.
No, I think they're talking about in a match. Who ran a 6-pack? Who ran a 7-pack? Not who had 25 break and runs over 4 matches. Okay. I think, my understanding is that we're talking about in a match. Who had the longest run during a match?
Well, you know what, to tell you the truth, if on this bet alone, I'd probably take a swing on Team Spain if I'm going with most break and runs, just because of how great all those dudes break the balls. Now, it's borderline soft. Majority of them are right on that line of breaking the ball soft, but they break the balls really, really well. I think, yeah.
Jonas isn't on the line.
Well, but look,
Jonas is like doing limbo.
He throws his whole body into it. No, look, I think the 6 is a little bit of a reach, if I'm being honest with you. I think that number is pretty high, but I think there will be. I honestly feel like at the end of this tournament, Mike, there'll be a bunch of guys who will probably be chopping up that prize money, because I think you'll probably have it in that 4 to 5 range. But 6 is a ballsy pick, Pinozo. That's for sure.
Well, it's a hot take. Jenny Ann saying in snooker they do the whole tournament, not just a match. But no, it's the high run for the whole tournament, right? So we're talking about the high run for the whole tournament.
Yeah. Which, by the way, I love that bonus that they do in snooker. And then
if someone runs 7 reds in round 1, that no one else runs anymore the rest of the tournament, that would be your winner.
So wait a second. So is it consecutive? It has to be like a pack, or can it just however many you get in that match?
Yeah. Yes, I believe it's a 6-pack, a 5-pack. Yeah.
Oh, so like so let's say if I run 3 and then the guy runs. Yeah. Shocking. We don't have answers the day before a tournament starts here, Mike. He says consecutive break-in runs in their live score. Okay, well I like the bonus. $10,000 is a pretty decent chunk of change. Mike, let me ask you this, because I wanted to ask this during the press conference when we submitted our questions, right? Look, it's the biggest tournament in pool, okay? We all know $1 million. They've been hyping it up for forever, all these things. And it's great. Like the direction that it's going in and the way that this tournament is awesome, right? And finally. But with that in mind, Mike, these other majors, right? There's a big difference in prize money. And if I'm a struggling touring pro, and most of them are struggling because although they have these big numbers on their ranking, a lot of them have big expenses alongside that as well, and a lot of losses that are not highlighted in that ranking. So,
right,
how do you control any funny business from happening, especially when the stakes get really high? That match alone in the finals is going to be $100,000 swing. The only tournament that compares in terms of that, as far as the payout, is going to be this.
Isn't second place 100?
What is it? Is it 2? Is it? Oh, so it's 150.
Yeah. Same
Well, yeah, okay. So then there you go. Even more reason, right?
It depends on who's playing. I would not have seen Federer and Kachi making a saver.
They're both businessmen, no, Mike? $150,000, Mike. $150,000 difference, Mike. The only tournament that's going to pay anywhere near that is this year's U.S. Open and last year's World 8-Ball Championship. I think they paid out $75,000 to the winner. But like, given the fact that nothing else really compares to this tournament, Mike, what's stopping them from? I mean, like, you want to feed your family, you want to take care of number one, you want to be able to keep on playing.
Listen, I don't want to. I'm not going to say anything about what's going to happen if there's 5 Filipinos in the final 16 because I've been tortured on social media. But again, a lot of it depends on who's, and it could be they've got arrangements ahead. Who the hell knows? It's something that you don't make public, obviously, because it's a bad look,
right?
And maybe would clamp down, whatever. But you're right. There's some big swings in money. By the same token, someone goes deep in this thing, they've got their nut for the year, for the rest of the tournaments.
Yeah. Right? To keep their dreams alive, Mike.
They want to split that in half with somebody. I think most of the players are getting as much as they can get out of this.
I'll leave it there. That's all I'm going to say. I'll leave it there. But it's a legitimate question, and the more that listen, if everything else gets closer to where this tournament's at, then that lessens the chances of there being any kind of issue in that regard. But given the fact that it's so different than everything else, Mike, it opens a door where that I don't think anybody wants that door to necessarily be open. So anyhow, Mike, moving on in terms of takes, I don't know if this is necessarily a hot take, Mike. And this is one of yours. Yap's time to shine, you said.
Picking him to win.
You're picking him to win? You never told me that.
That's what time to shine. What do you think? He makes the final 8, that's shine? I mean, the guy is one of the top 3-4 players in the world in the last year.
Look, you're the king of doing stuff like that where you're like, oh, well, I said he was due. I'm like, okay, well, you said that 6 months ago. You know what I mean? Like, what are you talking about here? So, yeah. No, look,
I think Aloysius Yap, he's my guy this year.
Who do you got meeting him in the final then? Since I got you on that note.
No clue. I have no clue. I haven't looked. I mean, I have to look at brackets, see where the final 64 fleshes out, things like that. But I like him winning all his matches here.
Look, he is so easy to root for him, and he's gotten to be in the same conversation as like a Carlo Beato, and that's not easy to do. That's not easy to do at all, because Carlo's got a really big resume along with a world championship in that resume, and just in terms of like him just being so tough and a difficult out, and we've seen him go through heartbreaking losses, Mike, throughout his career as well, and it's only just added fuel to his fire and has served him well when the next pressure moment that he gets himself in, because he gets himself in there quite a bit, and consistently, I might add,
and he's his issue has always been confidence. He's always gotten down on himself. He's always doubted himself, but he's broken through that 2, 3, 4 times now in the past year and a half. Okay. So I think now he's at that point where he could fade the late stages of this event.
I can't argue with you, Mike. The dude's built to just weather anything. And there's not like, you couldn't put a guy across from him where I'm not going to say he's on that dude's same level. And I'm talking along with the Filler, along with the Shane, along with the Federer, along with the Cole brothers. I'm saying anybody and everybody, I would take even money betting against them, against any one of those guys, and like my chances, because I've seen him do it. I've seen him lose to Ko Ping Chung. I've seen him lose to Carlo Biato before in U.S. Open semifinals and in finals. And then I've seen him come and storm his way back. And I've seen him on the biggest stage for his country go out there and shine the brightest in terms of last year's Reyes Cup as well, Mike. I love his. I love his temperament now and the way that he has processed all that, because his arm used to get a little shaky back in those U.S. Pro Billiard Series days. I don't see that anymore, Mike. I don't see that anymore at all. It's this quiet confidence akin to like a Chua, where it's just like, if you ask him, he'll tell you, but otherwise he just goes out there and lets his game do the talking, and if you're playing against him, especially in single, and these are like pretty decent races. I know it's like race to 9 opening up, but I know it's going to get thicker and thicker in terms of race lengths. But that's where I like that guy and what he's been through to be able to, I don't care if he's behind, I don't care if he's ahead, whatever. He's a closer, he's a finisher, he's a proven commodity. I don't know if I'd pick him to, I'm not picking him to win, but that's a pretty good pick, especially if you were getting any kind of odds from a betting standpoint, taking Yap, because that dude's just through and through. He's an absolute monster at this point of his career, Mike. And he's so young too. It's another thing,
Better odds. You'd get better odds on him right now than Jason Shaw.
Oh, I would. If you want to give me a last longer in a Yap versus Shaw, what can
I just throwing that one out for you because I know you get all the big steam.
No, but look, listen, Jason is great in team dynamics, Mike. He's probably outside of number one in terms of team dynamic and what he brings to a leadership and a chemistry standpoint for any team on earth, but we just haven't seen him perform in these individual tournaments outside of Hanoi, that was 2 years ago, whatever it is, and so I don't think it's necessarily going out on a limb saying that. Now I hope that I'm wrong, because from how he moves the needle, he's great for the sport. Give me 30 Shaws from a personality standpoint, and I'll take it all day, every day, because there's a lot of fucking boring personalities out there, Mike.
Firepower standpoint.
Yes.
You love it.
Yeah. Oh, he doesn't mind taking on a big shot. He clearly has experience on TV table. He can deal with the slide and all those things and the bright lights. He can deal with the crowd, which I don't think there's going to be much of a crowd out there, although you can probably speak better to that than I can, because I don't know what it was like last year. But was there a lot of people?
No, but hopefully they've worked on that more this year, because they've got enough, and they've got enough pool fans there, and it's air conditioned and 1,000,000 degrees heat. So come on in and watch the freaking pool. It's not but they got to put some effort into pulling people into the door, which I didn't think they did much of a job of last year. And I'm talking at this, not Matchroom. I think that's on the Saudi Billiard and Snooker Federation and on the Ministry of Sports to get the word out locally and get people into the gym.
And now thinking through all this right now, in the moment, now it's kind of no surprise that Shaw did well of all tournaments in Hanoi, because he thrives off of energy of the crowd. And he even said as much during last year's Reyes Cup. He was like, look, it's so flat in here, and he's like, it's, he that was an issue for him, and when it does get a little raucous in there and people are cheering and clapping and that's when that dude shines. And for that matter, on the other side of it, there's a lot of other dudes who go and rattle when there's more of a crowd, and Shaw ain't that guy, So as the pressure gets mounted, he seems to deliver more and more. But anyhow, Mike, moving on the takes, and I don't know, this is our last one or one of our last ones, but this is one of mine here, Mike. And I'm going, and I feel like I've been kind of selling out a little bit, because I'm just taking groupings of players without really saying any specific player.
One group that's got 17, another that's got 10.
I'm going out on some limbs here, Mike. So
Chinese guys you want to talk about? I mean, I think there's like a dozen of them.
By the end of the tournament, by the end of the show, rather, I'm gonna end up having a good 30, 40 guys in my stable that I said, oh well, I picked them to start the tournament. I went out and said I got him. No, look,
I saw this as your hot take, and I'm wondering what this year's Mickey is. I mean, someone who wins a tournament that you didn't think they were going to win, or because Mickey didn't do a lot last year.
No, but so Mickey won the UK last year, and then he just steamrolled that into being the Cinderella of the European team. Like basically going from the outside, like, and I mean way on the outside, to saying like, "Hey, I belong here." And to Mickey's credit, Mickey has sustained that, and Mickey puts in the work more than any goddamn buddy that you'll see in pool. You know, Mickey goes out there and he travels the world and just grinds and just matches up with anybody and everybody. And the crazy thing about that kid, which I just admire the hell out of, is the fact that I'll see him like in whatever, like in playing these Asian tournaments, right? I'm playing in Vietnam, I'm playing in Taiwan, whatever. And then whenever they're done with tournament play, he's like, okay, yeah, I'll just spot James Aranas 2 games going to 9, playing 9-ball. And I'm like, and in my head, I'm thinking, who the fuck do you think you are spotting James? But then like he gets there, you know what I mean? Like, and I'm not saying just in that matchup with James, but like he plays some of the toughest players on earth, spots them, and that's like he really puts himself to the test like everywhere you look of the world, Mike. It's so hard to not admire that kid and how he goes about his business.
So from a Polish standpoint, you know, your top 3 odds guys are obviously Victor, Wojciech, and Misko. You know, you certainly got Daniel Messial in the group.
You know, I'm a big Messial fan, Mike.
Konrad Jushishin. So, you know, there's, and they make, you know, one of them, it's a pretty good group to say, I don't know which one, but one of these guys is making a final 8.
Oh yeah. I would for sure take that bet in a snap call heartbeat. You know, give me that group of the guys to make it in the final 8, 100%. Look, as a group, like give me 5 guys. I wouldn't be too mad getting a Polish team against anybody in the world because they're that stout. Well, playing 9-ball, I should say, like this version of 9-ball. But look, there's just a lot of guys who are easy to root for. You know, the Victor story isn't easy to root for, like just from pulling on the heartstrings, you know. But then there's guys, and he's done pretty well, like in other events, you know. But he's been on the outside looking in terms of, like right on the cusp of being in that European top 5, you know, and obviously this tournament from a prize fund standpoint alone, it could catapult you right there, right away, one decent run, you know. A guy like Wojciech, who is more often than not like an afterthought in that grouping, is the most decorated amongst that group. You know, now I know Masial. Yeah, that's what I know. I know, but like he never seems to really get the respect. Does that make sense? Like you think about World Cup of Pool teams.
He's an outsider from WNT standpoint until now, and he's quiet and he's respectful and he doesn't make a big show. And he's not the most, you know, aggressive, daring player in the world, just unbelievably good. You know, John Kowalski says he figures he's going to go deepest this year. The only reason I say he isn't going to go deepest this year because he was deepest last year. And he was the one who beat Victor on the way to the Final Four. So
that's a great point.
I like a Victor or a Misko or a Konrad this year to be the deepest run Polish player.
Look, I could realistically
super guy.
Oh yeah, and they're all nice guys. I mean, look, the style of play from some of them are a little bit tough, just on the eye standpoint alone, you know. But like that aside, like they're consistent, you know. They're extremely steady, and I would love to see these guys, like individually, going and get these big signature wins under their belt. You know, go and snap off a guy like a Federer, or go and beat a guy like a Shane in single elimination, and see what that could do for the rest of your tournament run. You know, and right. You know that they can. You just haven't seen it yet. You know, and so until you kind of make that next step, then it's hard to like realistically be a buyer. But look, I think it's coming. I think it has been coming. And I could realistically make an argument for either one of those 5 dudes, Mike, you know. But if I was going to say who I want, I want to see Victor get that run, because what happened a couple of years ago was just brutal. You know what I mean? And so, like in terms of all the politics and shit like that, and him skipping Hanoi and all these things. So, but Masial's got a big monkey off his back winning that Qatar event, Mike, and getting 6 figures last year. You know, Wojciech being a world champion in his own right. Conrad doing well, I think, in European championships recently. And we know what Victor can do, and we know how steady that kid is as well. And so, so many different layers to those guys. But as a grouping, as a team,
last year,
yeah. And who was it in that like UK Open that where it was like those gaffy, like less than 4-inch pockets, and where they ended up going on a run? Was it Conrad or was it Misko? It was one of those two.
Misko reached the final against Mickey, right? Or was it against one of Misko either played Mickey or Rob?
Yeah.
One of them.
Frank's question's good in the chat here, Mike. It says, where do you see Pius finishing? I think he's ranked like number 2 or 3 in Europeans, and we ain't even talked about him the whole show, Mike.
Right.
So I'll pose that question to you, that Frank, where do you think Pius finishes at in this event, without looking at the draw and all these things obviously in mind?
Yeah, I don't know, but we know that it wouldn't surprise us at all if he went to final 32, final 16.
Oh yeah. Anything short is a big letdown, by the way.
You think he's got a really good shot at 16. But if you went through the list, you'd find about 24 guys you kind of assume are going to get to 16. So something's got to give. But right. Yeah, I mean, you kind of look at him as, okay, if he gets 16, you're not surprised at all. You'd like to see him go 8-4, see what happens.
Yeah.
Is that
he has to be like, you got to become feared, right? And he's respected, but he's not feared yet, Mike. And you get that reputation by how you perform on these types of stages. Like, look, and I'll equate him to like a Jonas type guy, right? Respected in regionals, right? You know what he can do in the Seattle Open or whatever, you know what I mean? And Super Billiards Expo, right? But like, this is where you earn a reputation that is on Matchroom's biggest stages. And there is no bigger stage outside of a Mosconi Cup than this event right here, And so I think anything short of like 16 is a big disappointment, because that kid has a big opportunity here, Mike, to make a move, especially considering where he's at 6 months into the year.
Okay, so as long as you're into putting your arms around entire countries, Vietnam's got a pretty little club world.
They got a tough draw, Mike. I looked at the Vietnamese draw. It's brutal for those dudes. I hope they do it, because it'd be great for that country and for pool fans and all that.
It's brutal from them, but if you're their opponent, you're like, I'm not crazy about playing these guys in the first round. These guys, talk about playing with house money and wind. That's those Vietnamese players, they hold up pretty well, especially the top 2.
Look, Huang, but Huang can kind of have a shaky arm at times, and I know he's the country's favorite, and I get that, and he's earned that. And you're right, there's a lot of guys who are dangerous, but I just haven't seen a move yet, like when it's really time to shine the brightest. And look, for that matter, like I mentioned, in terms of the draw, those opening round matchups are not easy for them. I think Huang's got the easiest, and whoever's opponent is, I mean, no disrespect, but like, I think Huang's got the easiest opponent early on in this tournament. So like, if you already start, chopping them down, and then all 4 of them are on one loss side, well, then it becomes difficult. Now, from rooting for stories and like you mentioned, countries, obviously, because I'm just picking up every country I can at this point. I want to root for them because of what it could do in terms of sparking the region even further. I want to see one of those guys get into a final 8, and then you think, okay, they might have a chance, and see what those numbers can go and be like in terms of viewership for an event like this, because they got the numbers where they could realistically make a dent in terms of it spiking.
You're right. I'm looking at their draw, and it doesn't even matter which one's which. If there's 5 of them, their opponents are Yap, Victor, Shane.
It's brutal. Yeah.
Shane, Pius.
Yeah.
Duong's got an easy, soft.
Yeah. And that's what I mean. Like,
4 out of 5 are heavy, pretty pretty heavy underdogs.
And that's tough to do. And listen, not for nothing, but all those things we talked about in terms of like what it can do in terms of viewership and all that. There's like pressure for those guys. You know what I mean? Like all the pressure of those fans and rooting for their country. Like they got a lot of passion, Mike. But that comes with expectations and that pressure, like I mentioned.
Yeah, no, they do. They, yeah, a lot of pressure. I mean, you look at guys like Wong. I mean, look at his following on Facebook and social media and Instagram and all that kind of stuff. He's like 250,000.
Yeah. I mean, look, I've walked up on some of those like private, like they're streaming from their own pages, and I've walked up to like a cell phone on a TikTok and I've seen six figures before, Mike. You know what I mean? And it's crazy. Like on just their TikTok, like in other words, those fans can go and show up and show out, and I love that about them, but it's just a lot of pressure for that event. Hey, okay, you already mentioned that. I love you. But yeah, I'm interested. There's going to be some storylines, some Cinderellas along with this event. There always is, Mike. And this is part of why I like the World Championships. I've heard from you and from a lot of other guys that last year, especially when it got down to the business end, there was a lot of tight arms out there because there was so much money on the line.
It was right. It was right from the first match. I don't know about tight arms, but from the first match, people just they just looked nervier. Just even not even playing a match, just sitting around talking. They just all looked a little bit on edge. But that's what the big money like that does.
Well, I mean, look, there's so many other aspects of how it'll affect your career that like they all know, and I know we haven't seen a World Cup of Pool in 2 years or World Pool Masters this year, and we likely won't, but like if it ever does come back, which we don't know, there'll probably be one of those spots taken, right? Of course, we can't go a whole show without mentioning that. But like what it could do for their own individual brands in terms of them gaining more sponsors, right?
Yeah.
Them getting like a PLP type invitation. Oh, by the way, a lot of them, you have a decent run, whether you're European or Asian, or for that matter, a long shot American. One good run puts you into Mosconi Cup, and there's a $20,000 or $40,000 bonus right off the bat. You know what I mean? Just for even just getting into. It's like if you get into a semifinal, or a final, you're guaranteed at least getting on one of those teams, Mike.
Oh yeah.
So,
and I don't know how deep does the double digits run in prize money. Pretty deep.
Let me see here. I can bring up the graphic here in my phone. Let me see, because I know they just posted the payouts yesterday, by the way. So quarterfinalists get 25,000, semifinalists get 50,000.
Yeah. So 5 you got 25. Last year we got 27. But we won't bring that up.
Come again? Couldn't hear you, Mike. My internet cut out a little bit. No, look, if you're in that range of player trying to get on a European or even now an Asian team, good luck with it. You know what I mean? But like you get into semifinal and finals, you got a really, really legitimate chance at getting on one of those teams and making your whole dreams come true, Mike, which is awesome. But then it becomes everything has to kind of be a perfect storm if you're one of these guys, or it's going to be one of these proven players who just they can handle whatever you throw at them, they can handle it. So anyhow, Mike, some other notable guys who I'm kind of rooting for. Moritz comes to mind. Obviously, Niels from a storyline standpoint. Fraser Patrick, he was like the storyline of the UK Open, wasn't he, Mike? That guy from the UK. Yeah, I mean we saw Mustafa Alnar put himself on the map with a couple big wins over Filler last year, Mike. Obviously, Chua, who I got a chance to speak with. That Felix Vogel, Anton Raga. There's so many great players in this tournament, Mike, to go and keep your eye out for. Do you know what time matches start or anything like that, Mike?
I don't, but let's take a gander, see what
I figured you would have done some work before we got started here, Mike.
Yeah, the 1930.
So 7:30 locally.
I don't know.
That's probably right around 10:30 in the morning. I'm thinking. I don't remember what the difference in time zones are, but we'll take a look and I'll post it on the page. World Championships start tomorrow. Any other things that you're looking forward to, or just want to make mention of this event, Mike?
No, not really. I was just looking at some of the, in terms of who's playing who, the American players, who they're all lined up against. Oscar's got a German player, Casper.
Didn't he just go deep in a WPA event, Mike? I know I saw that name somewhere.
Yeah, I'm not sure where he went through, but he did have a good. Hunter faces Moritz. Max Eberle's got the youngest co.
How stacked are the Germans, though, man? Seriously, every time I look over, there's another German I never heard of that just pop on the map.
Tyler's got Loho Sum.
That's difficult. That's going to be difficult for sure. I want to see, Mike, in terms of the Americans, I want to see these guys who did show up go and make a run, though. Like, just from my heart standpoint. It's not me just saying that as a friend of Oscar's, but like the guys who did make the effort, and they're not dumb. They're all of them are ROI guys. You know what I mean? But they put their money where their mouth is, and I hope that it goes in parlays for them into a decent run and can put themselves in a spot where they can make somebody else uncomfortable. Does that make sense?
Yep. A couple other matches I was looking at. The Cole brothers start out with Bader and Al-Shamari.
Those are tough outs, Mike. Both of them are tough outs.
Could go softer than that. And one that I thought was kind of interesting was Kachi against Imran Majid. Imran Majid is one of the guys who, in events like this, is going to go every time.
Dude, let me tell you, he is so consistent. Is Imran? I can't remember the last event that he didn't get through to single elimination, and probably like around a 32 at a minimum. He's always in that spot, Mike.
Yeah, 64-32, which he's got to get there somehow. So he starts off with Kachi. You never know.
I'd imagine to be on TV table, just given the fact that Kachi was last year's runner-up. Pretty brutal for the Peruvians, though, Mike. Gerson and I've never heard of Mauricio, but they end up facing each other in the very first round. I'd imagine they rode over together, and then they fly across the world and have to draw each other in round number one. I mean, pool is brutal. Sanjin against Nagaki, Feliciano against Conrad, Wojciech against Fuche Wee. A lot of great matchups early on in this event, Mike. So I'm going to be scoreboard watching. I'll be sweating from the house. Of course, you guys can check out the action at WNT.TV as well, especially if you're here in the States. If you don't get any other event, you'll get your money's worth and then some in this one. That's for sure. Mike, I want to get you out of here on your winner. And I think I might have heard it already, but just so we have it on the record. Who you got winning this event?
Aloysius Yap.
All right. Well, you heard it here first. Guy. I'm gonna stick with the country, and
No, go ahead.
No, I'm not gonna pick a player. I'm just gonna stick with my country, and I'm going with the Filipinos. The Filipinos.
I'll take Asia. I'll take Asia.
Look, all right. Let me look over one more time, and then I'll give you. I'll quit dicking around on you, Mike. Let me see here. I want to root for Chua. I want to root for Chua because I like Chua a lot, But like you mentioned, from an odds standpoint, it's so hard to go back to back in tournaments. Man, I guess you know what. Give me Bernie Regulario as the winner. I was gonna go Carlo, but I'm gonna go with Bernie. Team Marboys for the win, for the W. I was, Mike. See, you could literally argue for like the whole team. You know what I mean? They're so deep. Anyhow, it's going to be a fun event. $1 million up for grabs. Make sure and sweat all the action. Mike, what's your schedule like the rest of this week?
I'll be out. I'll be around.
All right, we'll probably do some like post stuff and see how our picks are doing. So, anyhow, thanks everybody for hanging out with us. What's that?
I'm assuming tomorrow they're doing first half the field is going to do 2 rounds, right?
Yeah, that's how they've been doing it for these events, where they'll have half of them will play 2 matches no matter what. Yeah. Which I like, by the way, because it lets you at least play, get your wheels grease a little bit before you get a day off. So, anyhow, I'll be doing stuff daily, so make sure and keep your notifications on. Panozzo, it's always a pleasure having you on. We'll see how our picks do, and we'll see.